Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Artist Career Success Interview Series. And I'm so excited to be here today with the one and only Ray Mercer, Broadway Star, extraordinaire, choreographer, dancer. He does it all. So welcome to the show today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Roger.
Anytime. I just met you recently. So, it was during a Philadelphia Masterclass series online at that. And I was just so impressed with what you were doing as a choreographer, as an instructor, teaching artist. So just wanted to follow up. And, as I researched you, just seeing everything that you've done in the arts, I said you'd be perfect to inspire people during these dark times. So thank you.
Well, great. It's good to be here. I'm excited about this.
Well, me too. So I just want to jump right in. Let people know who you are, what you do, and what's your upbringing like.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Ray Mercer. I was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. And I kind of started my dance career kind of late. I was originally a gymnast. I was on my way to the Olympics and I was training. I was a young gymnast and my parents, they really could, to be a gymnast, it costs a lot of money, for the coaching and the gyms and things like that, stuff that, finances that my parents didn't have. So it was a struggle. And I really had to ask myself at 17, is it something that I really wanted to pursue? It was something that I was good at and I excelled at, but I just had to ask myself, was it something I was passionate about? And it wasn't until a friend of mine took me to a dance class. It was a ballet class. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with dance. And fortunately, the lady that owned the studio offered me free classes as long as I came. It was a very, very small studio. Yeah, it was a very small studio, but she offered me free classes. And that's how I was introduced to dance. I stuck with it. I was taking ballet class with 6-year-olds and I kind of fell in love with dance. I went on to college. I graduated from college from the University of New Orleans. I studied dance while I was down there. And, I would simultaneously, take dance classes in New Orleans. And it wasn't until I graduated from college. I needed a job. And fortunately, I had the opportunity to be a flight attendant of all things.
Hey, make that money, right?
To make that money, I was so broke. Yes. And I had to pay my way through college, and I was like, "Oh God, what am I going to do now?" I'm this. I had a degree in psychology. I knew I didn't want to pursue that. I wanted to be an artist. So I had to think of a way I could facilitate that. So I applied to be a flight attendant, got hired, and it was perfect because I was able to take class. I was able to take class in New York. I was able to fly to auditions anywhere, anywhere auditions were happening, I was able to fly. So it kind of worked to my advantage. And I ended up in Chicago. I was dancing with Deeply Rooted for about 2 years. And from then, Lion King came, and they were having these big, huge auditions, and everybody in Chicago was there. And I auditioned for Lion King. And I have been with Lion King. I'm in my 18th year with the Lion King.
Wow. That's longevity for all the artists listening. That's legendary, 18 years of anything, but Lion King? Wow.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody a year ago or two, and they think that I'm the longest running African American man on Broadway who's danced. So I've been doing it for a while, 18 years.
That's incredible. Wow. You hear that every day. And like you said, to be the longest running African American male at a time like this, is even more powerful, right? It's such an example for all of us.
Yeah. Thank you. It goes by so fast, and it's times like these where you're at home and everything's on a standstill, where you have time to think about what you've done. When you're in it, you really don't think about it, but you think about what you've done, and I've come to the realization that you have to be passionate about what you do to do it for 18 years, consistently for 18 years. It's been something I've been blessed to do, but yet and still, I've had a lot of fun and I've learned a lot of things. So it's a tremendous blessing.
Well, yeah, so many amazing things here, right? I feel like you went to school and you figured out this was not for me, the psychology track, and yet you reinvented yourself into this amazing world-class artist. So I think it's such a teachable moment for our listeners out there who are feeling stuck in whatever major they're in, or maybe they couldn't even go to school. And they feel like, it's taking me too long, or I'm on the wrong path and I can't become an artist. That's not true. I think you're a living testament to the fact that you can do it, no matter what your background was. Follow that dream and you work hard enough.
Absolutely. I think that you're right. Yes. And I think it's so important, to pay attention to what your passion is, hone in on what it is that makes you happy, what gets you up in the morning and what drives you. And I often encourage young choreographers, young dancers too, is to listen to that voice, you know what I mean? Because that's the thing that's going to make you so unique, that thing that, that belongs to you and no one else's, you know what I mean? And then once you recognize what that voice is, you're able to follow through with all the things that you want to do.
Wow, that's a word. He's preaching today. I love it. For real, that was all about that originality. I feel like that's coming up a lot in these interviews, so I'm so happy you touched on that.
Yeah.
So much time trying to be somebody else and fit into this mold of what we think a successful artist looks like in our genre, but that's not really where the magic is. It's just coming out being so unique and so different from everybody else.
Yeah, that magic belongs to you. It belongs to you. My grandmother used to always say, keep your eyes on your own paper. When, it's so easy to get caught up on what everybody else is doing, or what dance should look like, or what your work should look like, or, what it should look like. But that's when you get distracted. You have to keep your eyes on your own paper, because the magic is you. You're very unique, and what you bring to the table is very special.
Well, and that's attractive too to employers and collaborators, because they all sense that confidence. So.
Absolutely. And it's, everybody always asks, I get this question a lot about what should I do when I'm about to go into the Lion King audition, and, what are they looking for? And, what do they want? They want you. They're looking for you. I mean, I can't tell you how you are or what you should do. I mean, you should go in there and do exactly what it is that you do, and if you're the right fit, they'll find you.
Well, you just touched on something else very important, right? It's all about that fit. You don't want to go where you don't fit. So
right.
It could be the gig of a lifetime, but if it doesn't match who you are as a person or as an artist, then you're going to be miserable the whole time you're there.
Exactly. I think that, I think it's especially for young Black artists, Black artists, period, that, you think of Broadway and you think that Lion King is your only resort. Not necessarily so. I mean, there's so many Broadway shows, and with the climate today, when Broadway opens back up, I think Broadway's going to look very, very different.
Yes.
And so I think that this would be a great opportunity for them to take advantage. And two, I think it's important to take this time off to really start to capitalize on who you are as an artist. You know what I mean? Figure out who that is. There are virtual acting classes and virtual voice lessons, virtual dance lessons. Just because it stopped doesn't mean that you have to stop.
Amen. I was just talking about this with somebody too. It's about using what you have no matter where you are. So many artists think that the studio defines them, the theater defines them, the TV screen. And it's not about that. It's about the gift that God gave you. So if you can do that in your home, amazing, right? We have to find ways to kind of transcend where we are right now.
Absolutely. The studio is an empty space. Yes. The theaters are empty space, and what makes it magical is what you bring to it. You know what I mean? Who you are and what you bring to it, the life that you bring to it, the art that you bring to it. It's just an empty space, and they're very empty right now. So now's the chance to work on who you are. You know what I mean? So when they open back up, that you can walk in that space and create magic.
Wow. They say stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You know, if you're always
Stay
ready,
ready. Stay ready. You won't have to get ready.
you always be ready for the opportunity because everybody prays for that chance, and then the door flies open, and they're like, "Oh man, let me go get dressed." And I got
No. That was never me. Never me. I'm always prepared. You always got to be prepared. You do. You really do. You never know.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
So speaking of Lion King and just your long career in that world, tell me about one of the most memorable, enjoyable times that you can recall.
I think the most memorable and the one that I have to go to a lot, it's just as a reminder, is the day I got that phone call. I always think about that day that I received that phone call. Like I said, I was a flight attendant. I was just getting off a trip and I was on my way to a rehearsal and I had already auditioned, and it wasn't until like 3 or 4 weeks later that they had contacted me. It might have even been a month later that they contacted me. And I remember receiving that phone call and what that was like. And that phone call changed my life forever. It changed my trajectory forever. And not only did, it's one of those instances where I knew that it was going to change my life forever, that my life would be forever changed because of that one phone call. And all the hard work that I had done up until there validated that one phone call that I got saying that, I had gotten into the Lion King. So I think that was the most memorable experience. I remember where I was. I remember how it felt. I remember the first person I called, and I remember all the work I had done before that and all the work I had yet to do, it was sandwiched in between that one phone call. So that's probably the most memorable. There are always things going on in the theater. It's live theater, things happen. There's a funny, I don't know how many people have seen the show, but I play a giraffe in the show and I'm on these stilts and I'm like 14 feet in the air. And I remember it must have been 2006 or 7, and it was on my birthday. I'll never forget it. And I walked out on stage like I normally do, and they had changed the dry ice on the stage and I fell.
Oh no.
Oh God, it was the worst, Roger. It was the worst.
But you did it with grace. I'm sure you would still.
I don't know about that. I do not know about that. I don't know how graceful that was, Roger. It was the worst. And because you're on these stilts, you can't, I have walked halfway across the stage, and because you're on these stilts, you can't get up. So the crew guys had to grab me by my legs and drag me off the stage in front of 1,700 people.
Wow.
But yeah, it's one of those things, yeah. So I do remember that. April 5th, 2006.
Oh man. Every time that date comes around, every April, you're probably like, oh no, don't.
Oh my God, here we go.
I love it. It's like a high and a low, literally, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's really cool though. I love that. And I love that you don't forget where you came from. Like that's so important. I tell artists this all the time. They get so wrapped up in what's next or resting on their laurels that they really forget to look at the beginning and they went through to get to where they are. And that's really one of the most beautiful things. I
think, you're right. And I think it's a constant reminder of who you are, and where you came from and how and why you do the things you do, you know what I mean? And, how you want to change or improve, the beginning and where you came from you're right. It's so important. It really is important. And you constantly have to remember that, even to this day, I have to, like we discussed earlier, I had to go home and check in. I checked in with my family, and as soon as I landed, I was like, "Oh God, this is where it began." And your family has a way of keeping you in check.
Yes, no matter how far you get in your career, they're like, "You can
absolutely
crash."
You're still Ray. Right.
I love it, but it keeps everybody humble and keeps everything in perspective.
Absolutely.
I love it. So I want to ask you, because I think this is a really unique time for us as Black male artists. I want to ask you, what has been the biggest challenge, in your personal life and or your professional career as being a Black male and an artist?
Black male and art. You know what? It's such a poignant question, because I think that now more than anything that, you know, we have to stand in our Blackness and who we are. And I've always known that it was such an empowering thing. You know, there's something that I always noticed and felt too, is that when a Black man walks into the room, you can change the trajectory, you can change the feeling, you can change the energy in the room, you know, and something that I really can't explain, you know, but you can feel it. You know, when they walk in the room, when you see them on stage, when you see, you know, this story, when they tell their stories, and when you see them sing or you see them dance, it's something about that is so powerful and rich and rewarding, and it carries such a beautiful story, you know. And I don't think that a lot of times we know how much power we have. And I think now more than any time, I think it's time to utilize that, you know, utilize all that we are and make no apologies for that. No apologies. So I made a resolution with myself during all this time that I wasn't going to apologize for who I was and what I had to offer. I was going to, you know, create, you know, sometimes we get, okay, maybe it should look like this, or maybe I have to create it like this for this particular audience. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not. You know, I'm not going to make any apologies for my work and what I want to say. I'm going to say it because what I have to say and who I am is powerful. And I would encourage every Black man that's out there, young or old, is that you have a very powerful story. And it's up to you to tell it, you know what I mean? And it's up to you to share it with the world. And I, you know, like I said, I would challenge, especially now, Roger, more than any time, is to find out what that is, find that voice, whatever you do. If you are a security worker, if you're a singer, actor, dancer, whatever, in the arts, out of the arts, that you find out what your voice is and you use it. You know, because it's a powerful thing. So much can be done with it. So that's my resolution, and you know, and I hope that it's reflective of my work and what I do going forward. You know, it's one of those times that I realize that you're constantly learning. You're always learning, and you're learning, and you're learning, and you're learning. And if you learn, you grow.
Well, yeah. It touched me because, yeah, as a Black male artist, I feel the same. And also you look for those connections during this time. I think sometimes we all get so busy and we all get wrapped up in what we do individually that collectively, you know, we miss out on a lot. I remember like going to IABD's, the International Association of Blacks in Dance. I went to their conference, and it was my first time going last year. And I taught and presented there, but as I was just taking classes, I never will forget the experience of being in the Black male session. And Black male artists of all generations were there, and it was awesome just having the elders like school and, you know, the high schoolers and all of us in between. And it was just so powerful, like you said, to have a room full of just Black excellence and the ancestry and all that we bring to that room and that space. So I'll never forget that. And it kind of brought up those feelings for me, you know, just hearing what you said. So
yeah, it does. I'm glad you brought that up. I remember IABD is one of those life-changing moments for me. I remember the first time I ever went. Yeah. I think it might have been in Denver, maybe, was the first time I ever went. And it changed I was like, oh my God, they look like me and they move so beautifully. And, you know, we share the same stories and we share the same joys and we share the same pains. And it was, like you said, it was one of those things that it's almost unexplainable when you walk into a room and you feel a sense of affirmation, you know what I mean? And know that you belong here and that you're accepted. And yeah, it's a good feeling. It really is.
Yeah, it's like you made a home, right? Oh, you didn't even know you were looking for home, and you get there and you're like, oh my God, everybody's.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we need that more than ever, especially during this virtual period. So like that we need to all do, right? You know, Black artists collective.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You all heard it here first, right?
Yeah. Right.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
And I was gonna also ask you too. So, as you were going through your career, you've done so much and it took so much time and energy. How did you balance your personal life with your professional aspirations?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you a little secret, Roger, for
Yeah.
you and everybody else. I have no personal life, and I have, I have come, I've accepted the fact that I don't have a personal life. I am. Here's another little factoid. I have never had a vacation in 18 years. Since I've never been on the beach. I've never been. It's just something that I couldn't afford to do with. Doing two careers at one time. I just didn't have the time to do it. So it is personal life is probably one of those things that I've just had to sacrifice. What I do is I make sure I take, whether it's a minute or an hour or a day, where I take it when it's specifically for myself, or else I would be bananas right now. And this time really has been a gift to me, having the time off. I've never had this much. The first 3 months, I thought I was going to go bananas. But I've kind of settled into it and kind of found a little routine for myself. But it's having a personal life has been my sacrifice. It really has. I've just, with my commissions and, everything that I had to do on top of doing 8 shows a week, it's just, a personal life just didn't fit in. So here I was. So this last 6 months or so has been my personal life.
Wow. Hey, better late than never, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
No, I'm happy you're taking that time. No, it's very important. But I also love the fact that you're keeping it real with us. That we do have to make sacrifices for our career. And sometimes people pretend like every single aspect of life and career can go hand in hand. But sometimes you can't, and you really do have to decide, like you said, for yourself what works and what doesn't work. So I love that you're like living in that truth.
Absolutely. It's a balance, it's a balance, and you have to kind of make a decision on what you want your life to look like. And sometimes when you look at that, you have to make sacrifices to get to where you need to go, whatever those sacrifices look like.
Absolutely. But it also goes to the fact that we were talking about earlier, right, of living in your truth, because so many people do what society tells them to do, right? So they'll get married, have kids, and house in the hills and all this stuff, and then be miserable on the inside because they know they didn't follow that artistic plan that God had for them. I love bold enough to say, like, no, this is what my life should be, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not to say I know people who do it very well, who have had families and able to juggle their families and have amazing careers, and they can do that. They and do it very well. Yeah. But it just goes back to keeping your eyes on your own paper and doing what you need to do for yourself.
Absolutely. I always say, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. I always tell people it's about the individual fulfillments.
Absolutely.
Well, I love it. So along those lines, any career advice for the young artist that's out there, and especially the one that's struggling during this, new normal that we're in?
Yeah. I like to address the second question first, I guess. This is a new normal, and and apparently the universe said to us that what we were doing wasn't working. So what we are going back to is not going to be normal. So we have to remember that first. And two, I would take this opportunity to capitalize on who you are and where you are as an artist. Just take first. I think your first step is, where am I? Before all this craziness happened, where was I, and where do I want to go, and how I can make this work in this particular circumstances and situation. I would encourage them to take classes, continue to take classes. And maybe take classes that you maybe wouldn't have had time to take while things were as they were. Acting classes. If you want to do Broadway, the acting and the vocal classes are crucial. So maybe now's the time to, take some classes. Also, what worries me the most is that, I've been on this exercise kick for the last 6 months. What worries me the most is that things will open back up and then wham, you'll be at full force because everybody is going to be full tilt. And you have to ask yourself, are you ready for that? Have you prepared yourself? Have you taken care of your body? Have you, taken classes? All of those things, because when those things open, it's going to be full tilt. And I would just prepare yourself to pop into an audition, because there are going to be dancers, actors, and singers who are ready to go. So you have to be up there with the rest of them. Continue to take classes and not lose focus on what's important to you. You know what I mean? What it is that's important to you. And if it's dance or if it's theater, if it's art, that's not going to go anywhere. So you just continue to take care of your bodies, take care of your spirit. It's important. And make sure that you're prepared when it all opens back up. Yeah. And as far as, and that's the here and now, and I think as far as just career advice in general, there is no substitute. I always say this, there's no substitute for hard work. You know what I mean? There's no other way around it. You just have to do the work. You have to do the work. People didn't get on Broadway by accident. They just didn't. And even the talented ones there's so much that even you could come in with raw talent, but there's so much more that you have to learn. Your work ethic, how to audition, you know what I mean? All the little things that, what is your resume and your headshot look like? All those things that lead up to the audition, all the classes and all those other things that you have to have along with your talent, or else, you won't survive in this industry. Even concert dancers, they have the best work ethic I have ever seen in my life, because, they're used to having 8-hour days and hitting the Marley and dancing until their feet are bloody. They have the best work ethic. And, and I would venture to bet that most of the concert dancers do the best on Broadway because they have the best work ethic. So continue to work hard. I wish there was a formula that I have that I could stick in your pocket to take with you, but nothing substitutes hard work.
That you said that, because it's true. Yeah, we're living in a shake and bake generation right now, and
yes,
it's instant, and it's not. You have to work hard. Careers are not overnight to the talented, but like you said, it's those who work for it.
Yeah, and I think that producers and directors and choreographers are looking for sustainability. People who are, there are certain parts of the industry where you walk in, you do a gig, they shoot it, and you're out of there. For Broadway, it's not you have to be sustainable. You have to be able to do 8 shows a week for how long. For concert dance, you have to be prepared to do any type of work. You have to be a versatile dancer. Those two, especially those two industries, there's just no other way around it but hard work.
Also building that network too. I said this is such a relationship-based industry, so you got to meet people and maintain positive, healthy, professional relationships with them.
Absolutely, and that's an testament for you. I mean, here you were just on a Zoom call, and you reached out. Because everything's a no until you ask. You know what I mean? And you reached out, and we're having this conversation. And like you said, it's just all about networking. This would have never happened had you hadn't had some type of initiative, or drive or passion for what you want to do. We wouldn't be talking right now.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm so happy that you're here. And just in closing, if you could please tell our listeners, what do you have going on? Upcoming projects?
Upcoming. It's so crazy that, every time I get emails or anything, they said, I know everything's on a standstill and this is all contingent, but we got to move forward. So this is what it is. First of all, I'm working on a virtual dance project that we're filming for Biden for Broadway. So me and a couple Broadway choreographers are working on that. So I'm going to be doing that within the next couple of months. I just finished a personal, like a passion project. It's on my Instagram. I did a virtual dance with a couple of 3 male dancers, and I got a videographer. So I just finished that project about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I am also working on, right before the pandemic happened, I was working on a concert, an evening of my work that was beginning to tour. So I've just been in talks with Omaha Performing Arts, and we're just trying to figure out what that looks like for the spring. So I'm still trying to negotiate what that looks like.
Nice.
Yeah, it's those things. And, you know, everything is contingent. We're trying to be patient and figure out what art is going to look like within the next few months.
Yeah.
And when it happens, like I said, hopefully we're all prepared.
For sure. Well, I can't thank you enough, Ray. This really touched me today, and I know that it's going to touch everybody who hears this. So one more time for the talented Mr. Ray Mercer, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It was nice talking to you, Roger.
And you as well.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen to us today. So stay in touch, and we'll see you next time on our Artist Career Success Interviews. Take care.
Bye.